Guys, Nick Tammaro here for the In the Money Players podcast. Wednesday action at Saratoga includes a pick six carryover, which begins on race number 5. I'm going to take you through that sequence, looking at the turf races for both surfaces, as there is some weather forecasted for upstate New York that may knock them off the turf. We're going to hope that things stay on the grass and we keep those fields intact, as it looks like a really fun and competitive sequence that gets started with 2-year-olds going a mile and a 16th on the inner turf. Note once again that the rail is at 0 on the inner turf. There was a major premium on saving ground throughout last week's racing. I expect that to continue. Of course, the rain could be a bit of a mitigating factor. That's a circumstance to stay on top of as things go along. The 8 Vagaries is clearly the one to beat in the first leg. A daughter of Lope de Vega, who comes in with solid workouts for trainer Chad Brown, had been training with first out winner McCulloch. This one was purchased at the Tattersall's October sale, where we've seen these connections have tremendous success over the years. That's the sale at which newspaper of record and domestic spending were purchased, among others. I think you can count on this one being ready to go first time out, looking for alternatives. I think the 3 and 4 Diamond Hands and Gunboat, both of whom are out of stakes winning dams with good top sides of their pedigree, should be ready to roll. They both come from very strong barns. If this race is rained off the turf, number 7 Lemieux is going to be a virtual cinch based on the race that she ran last time out on the dirt, narrowly missing after setting the pace. Moving along to race number 6, this is a turf sprint event where I love number 1 Sand and Sea. Last time out in her first try on turf sprinting, she ran a game race, I thought, to be second behind Tuscan Queen. Tuscan Queen, of course, came back and missed by a length in the Galway on Sunday afternoon. Sand and Sea looks like the inside speed, and I think is the right alternative to the 7 Crowding Out, who comes out of a very weak event on May 1st. That was her debut. She got some early position, ended up losing ground, and re-rallied. Generally, when horses do that, it's indicative of a poor race from top to bottom in terms of quality. And it definitely has played out that way. If you look at the runbacks, there have been no successful turf runners from that particular event. If this race is knocked off the turf, it looks like a race that should be dominated by Let Them Eat Cake, who's got the best dirt form of anybody in here. That's not exactly saying much. I would find a way to include the 9, the Goddess of Snakes, as well, who debuted in a stake race last year at Delaware, now in the care of Chad Summers, has actually been training well, according to the DRF Clocker report. Moving on to race number 7, this is clearly the toughest race in the sequence, in my opinion. I'm going to be 4 deep with all of the odd-numbered horses, the 1 Bayshore Foxes, the 3 Cadeau de Pay, the 5 Chloe Rose, and the 7 Before You, all of whom I think are serious win candidates. Before You was a very impressive maiden winner last time out when dropped in for 20,000, somehow got out of that race without being claimed, despite there being 2 horses claimed from that field. She blitzed that bunch that day. It was a weak group, and she made them look so in winning in wire-to-wire fashion. Looks to be the main speed again. I prefer Chloe Rose, though, first off a claim by John Toscano, who not only does very good work off the claim, but I love how he's bringing this one back quickly, especially after taking her off of the high-percentage barn of Mike Maker. The 8th is a very, very tough event on the turf. On the dirt, it doesn't look like it'll be particularly tough. On the turf, I went with number 5, Seismic Wave. I'm not really proud of the pick, but this horse has been pace compromised in his last 2 route tries on the turf. I think he's going to get quite a bit more pace to run at this time around. I think it'll go a long way towards helping his chances significantly. I'm very fearful of the 1 Taos off the layoff for Danny Gargan. This barn has tremendous numbers with fresh horses. You're also dealing with the best front-end rider on the circuit, the meets leading jockey, and the main pace. The other horse I think you have to use is the 6 Parlor, dropping in for a tag. He was claimed for 80,000 last year, ended up running a number of very good races for Mike Maker, including a nose defeat in the Maker's Mark Mile. It's a little disconcerting to see him go from a series of stakes races into a claiming event at the $40,000 level, but understand that Maker is also attempting to win the training title and needs to run horses where they can be most effective. If this race is rained off the turf, number 2 Musical America figures to be very, very tough for Charlie Baker, dropping in class, not so much because of how good his form is, but because this bunch is going to be pretty hungry if it's taken off the turf. One horse to consider off the turf is the 11 Troubling Moon. Moving along to race number 9, the featured event, the Bolton Landing. This for 2-year-old filly sprinting on the turf. I think if this race stays on the turf, I'm going to focus my action on the 3 Derry Nane, as well as the 7 Knees and Hips, and a little bit of the 5 Poppy Flower. Also, as a backup, the 8 Fulminate. The 2 horses I want mainly as A's are the 3 and 7. Derry Nane and Knees and Hips both coming off maiden victories on debut where they came from a little bit off the pace. Derry Nane had a perfect trip in scoring for trainer Christophe Clement, but I think there's upside here, and I think there's reason to believe that the speed figure in that race could have been a little bit faster. There were 2 turf sprints on the card this race, and one won the nightcap that day by Social Whirl. We saw Social Whirl come right back and win in a 2-life claiming event on Sunday. She improved her Beyer speed figure by 8 points. When you make speed figures, what you're trying to do is create a variant for the entire card, and there's an argument to be made that both Derry Nane and Social Whirl ran faster than those numbers would indicate, I think that's enough for you to give them the focus of your attention. Knees and Hips ran in a race where horses have already come back and run significantly better. I think you can upgrade that performance, especially because for a 2-year-old first-time starter, she was willing to come through on the inside, which to me is very, very impressive. Moving along to the nightcap, I'm going to keep this one simple. The One Clear Humor is supposed to win the race. She's supposed to go wire to wire. He's supposed to go wire to wire from the inside. First off the claim by Brittany Russell. Luis Saez is in the irons. This is the main speed. There should really be nothing that keeps him from getting comfortable early advantage, and I think he still has room to move forward off of a positive effort last time out for prior trainer George Weaver. That's an in-depth look at the Pick Six for this Wednesday program. I'll be back with you for a play of the day on Thursday. Be sure to check out inthemoneypodcast.com. I did a podcast specifically focusing on this Pick Six with an even more in-depth look with PTF. Make sure you give it a listen. Also, a ton of great content on the network. Going into this big weekend, my analysis will be available every day. Of course, analysis for racetracks across the country. See you next time. Good luck.